Bomani, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Oh man, thank you for having me. I'm loving your little background right here. Yeah, I can see you a horror fan for real.
Yeah, well, I figured, gotta dress for the occasion, right? And gotta have the right mask out for the occasion because we're talking about a Frankenstein movie to a certain extent here, I would say.
Yeah.
We're talking about your new film, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster,
Yeah.
which I love the title, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So I watched the film the other night, and of course I'm very excited. Like I said, I'm a huge Frankenstein fan of the
Oh,
creature, of the movies, and of the original Mary Shelley source material.
yeah.
So I guess I just want to start there with Frankenstein and kind of your relationship with Frankenstein, the character, the creature, the novel, and what led you to decide you were going to put your own spin on this classic material.
Well, it came when I first read the book, when I was like fresh out of high school. And I was just so like enraptured with it, obsessed with it. I couldn't put it down, and it gave me an anxiety attack. Um, and I was just like, man, there's so much stuff in this book that people are not tapping with these adaptations. Like there's a lot to interpret here. And so I just always knew that I wanted to do something with it, but it took a while for me to figure it out. And then once it clicked, I realized like, for a lot of people with this story there, the focus is on the monster, which is a huge part of the movie. It's like, but I also wanted to recapture and reinterpret and ground our lead, and what our, Victor Frankenstein, is like as motives for this thing, and and try to humanize her as much as possible,
Yes.
for this, so this all really starts with the text for me. It's like because the I just thought the literature was so groundbreaking, and and a lot of the themes were really relevant to today. And I just knew in my head, like, if I can capture 2% of what Shelley did in the book, I was like, I feel like I'd be in a good spot.
Well, I mean, like I said, I too am a huge fan of that original text and that
Mhm.
novel. And it was so groundbreaking. And I think about it, and I was thinking about it today, that it's such a timeless and always timely story. It seems
Yeah.
like for every decade, every century that it's been
Mhm.
presented, it was timely when she wrote it in 1818. It was timely when Universal made the Boris Karloff movie. It's certainly timely now through your lens. Did you find it challenging though? I mean, you said it took a little while to
Yeah.
find a way in of how you were going to tell it. Was it a challenge to figure out, or did it all just kind of fall into place? Because watching it, I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this really does mirror a lot of even Victor's motivations in some places.
Yeah.
Was that challenging, or did you find that it just started falling into place?
It was definitely challenging.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drafts of in the attic of this, so it was a piece of work because trying to figure out the format, or just like how this can translate to screen, is like was a challenge. It's like, because obviously yeah, I'm inspired by the book, so I'm taking what I can of the book, and then mixing it with a movie language, that I understand and that I love. And so for me, it was just a matter of those things, and truly finding what this story is in a contemporary setting. So like finding those and then dancing on those themes as lightly as I can, like, was a it was a challenge, and I hope it was effective, in that it it's like, in that it worked, and that it connects with some audience. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I loved it. I loved the take. And how would you describe it for audiences that haven't seen it yet? Like I said, I've been lucky enough to get to watch an advanced screener a few days ago, and I
Hmm.
love it. But how do you describe it? Is definitely a modern take.
Hmm.
But how do you describe the film?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say it's like it's a modern take on, or a contemporary take on, Frankenstein through the eyes of a teenage black girl, and I think it's more inspired, it's like, because if you read the original text, there's a lot there
Yeah.
that I couldn't get to, but like for I think it's a new way to interpret the text, because I believe when people interpret it and adapt it, they choose their own ways. But to me, this was another way, another viewpoint, another lens to see this story through. So that would be how, I mean, the long-winded way of how I would describe it to people.
And I love your version of the mad scientist. I mean, when she's called that by a character in the film at a certain point, the mad scientist. But I love your reinterpretation, and it's Vicaria, her
Mhm.
name, and I love that the last name is never exactly said out loud in the film, but it's pretty much there for everybody to. I don't think it's a big mystery what it is, but yeah, spoiler alert. But I love that it's never overtly like said out loud, but it's definitely hinted at. But can you talk a little bit about finding your perfect leading lady? Because I thought she was just really outstanding, and the film. I mean, she's in almost every scene, and just a really powerful performance. Can you talk a little bit about finding Leia?
Yeah, I mean, Leia, weirdly enough, she came in and auditioned. Like, so
Yeah,
we were, shout out to her. She's, now a BAFTA award-winning actress. So,
yeah,
shout out to her. But yeah, she came in and auditioned and just completely smacked it out of the park, to the point where I was just like, there's no point in looking for another actress or even try. It's like, she's it. She's got it. And more and more, as I worked with her on set, and even now, like, seeing the response, it was just like, it proves more and more that she was the one. She had all the
yeah.
tools, and she's just such an incredible actress. But yeah, and she came in, she auditioned, and then she did these chemistry reads where we were in there for a while, having a read with people, and she was fantastic.
Well, she's definitely fantastic in the film, and yeah, deserves all the accolades she's getting for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, I love that some of her characters' motivations do mirror that of Victor's in the book in some ways,
Yeah.
and a lot of your story does, it's relatively faithful, especially in those respects of why she's doing these experiments and why she brings this monster to life.
Mhm.
But then there are other liberties where you're clearly making it your own.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the balance of that, of where to stay loyal to Mary Shelley, and then where to bring in a little bit more of your own thoughts into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has to come with the territory when you're adapting something to a different format or lens. One would
Yeah,
say, like, it's like, there's always gonna be things where uh does the story match, and like, what is the proper language to convey what happened? You know what I mean? And like, hey, listen, I'd love to make the 3 hour limited series of this of this
yeah,
version of the for the book, because the book is, so, even though it's short, it's still very dense
yeah,
on what is happening. But for me, it was like, how do we capture this in a cinematic way? How do we show our intelligence? How do we show the scary things off screen? Because some of the things that you
yes,
don't see are scarier than what you do. And I always remember, just like in the book, she describes the monster very little.
yes,
Like, she doesn't spend a lot of time telling you what the monster looks like. So in this one, I wanted to make sure, like, yeah, you're gonna catch glimpses of him, but never really get a full
yeah,
picture of him, because that was my way to kind of stay faithful to the book. And then, obviously, with the matching themes, there were some, deviations, as we won't spoil, but like, there are some deviations I take for my own reasons, that I think um are a better fit for today's themes.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I love to some of the style, just visual style choices that you made, like one that I particularly loved was Vicaria's glasses. How the one lens is cracked throughout most of the film, and she's and then I also love that the kingpin in the neighborhood is like literally up on the hill. I kind of felt like the couch was like his throne, where everybody literally had to walk up a hill just to be near him. And I loved those touches, and I felt like that was kind of you bringing your style into Mary Shelley's world a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was really fun. It's like because when you bring it into when you're adapting it for contemporary, you kind of have to find all these different ways to put it into this world.
Yes.
Because obviously, like, well, not obviously, but when Mary Shelley wrote it, like the world of it, I mean, it was interesting, but like when you look back now, when you read it, you're just like, okay, so it's in the 1800s or whatever. So it's like everything's going to be looking different. It now becomes a world. Like the Gothic vibe of Frankenstein, of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, is part of it. It's the world, So now when you contemporize it, I felt like I had to create some kind of world and environment that you are involved in.
Yes.
Because like those visuals now are so strong. It's just like when you're reading and when you're thinking about this, this Gothic environment, these castles and like brick, it's like stone labs and stuff like that is that's it. But when I thought about it, I was like, for instance, like with the lab, I'm just like, okay, like, Victor was kind of putting this stuff together, the way he could. So what is the contemporary way to do that with a girl? She's like finding stuff from scrap yards to kind of build this lab the best way she can. And, the place where she's living at, where she's in the housing complex, this is where she lives. And I just wanted to create this space that really, or this world, to kind of draw you in as an audience.
Oh, I love that. And I loved her workspace, that it was all just very makeshift, and like a door here used as like the bed and stuff. Um and that choice again to keep the monster, or Chris, very like you said, hidden. You get glimpses of him, you get his shape here and there. And I did pick up on that was very effective, in the fact that it left a lot to the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are these spikes of violence where we see some of the aftermath and some of the death that occurs, and there's some good gore in there for the horror crowds. I have to say, I know they're going to appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit about pulling that off? That looked like most of that was practical.
Yeah, no, I knew from the beginning that practical was the way.
Yeah.
It's the way, the truth, and the light. With a lot of things, and when it comes to gore, like it's like the person I look up to the most is Cronenberg, when it comes to that kind of stuff, and he's the king of that. So I wanted to honor that, and plus with a story like this, I just felt like if you're telling a Frankenstein story, to not have gore as being disingenuous. It's just like, what are we doing here? And on top of that, it's like, and same with like big themes, it's just like, I feel like if you're doing a Frankenstein story or anything like that, there's going to be, giant thematics in your face. Like that's how the story works. Like, it's like, that's part of it. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I just feel like you're being, I don't think you can read that story and not feel like these things are involved.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is, like we said, such a timeless story, over 100 years old, adapted so many times in so many different ways. Were there any of those other adaptations that kind of inspired you, either to try to incorporate things, or maybe even things that you wanted to stay away from?
I personally, like, I stayed to the text. That's where, that's where I drew everything from. Outside of, like, there's probably like one or two things that are, it's like that are obviously from the first movie, you know what I mean, that came out, whatever. But like, for like, I would say like 97% of this, I was just looking at the text and reinterpreting from there, because I always knew that there was a lot more stuff to draw from, that I thought would be, it's like really potent and fresh for an audience to see today, that people, a lot of people don't even haven't even read the book, so they
Yeah,
just don't even understand how far it really goes. You know?
absolutely. Well, I think hopefully maybe it's going to inspire some people to go back and check out the original novel. I mean, it is great. I admit, some school novels I didn't read cover to cover, but that's one I've read cover to cover more than once in my life. It is fantastic.
Oh, like I hope so. If someone comes up to me and says like I watched a movie and it made me want to read the book, and I went and read the book, I'd be like, oh my, I feel I feel great now. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
that's power today for sure
uh,
to get people to pick up a book.
yeah.
Um, Now, before we go, we are Halloween Daily News, where every day is Halloween. So always, if you'll indulge us, we like to ask a couple questions about Halloween itself and the holiday and kind of your relationship to Halloween. This is a horror movie. It's a Frankenstein movie. It's Frankenstein. The character has become almost synonymous with the holiday itself. So it's fitting
Mhm.
we're talking about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you celebrate Halloween now? And do you have fond memories celebrating growing up? Is it something you look forward to?
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I always remember dressing up as a Ghostface from Scream.
Oh, nice.
That was like my that was the costume I loved, and like I just remember when I'd put it on and I'd be smelling the rubber from the inside of the costume, getting my candy that way. Like those are my fondest memories of Halloween, like walking around and doing that, and um getting the candy with my friends, and like walking the streets that way with my big sister, or my big cousins, taking me, and like um those are my earliest memories of like Halloween. Is just like really just like youthfulness, and a simpler time where
Yeah.
where things were awesome. So I loved it, so the as a child, like that was such a fantastic time.
I think it does bring back that nostalgia for a lot of us, and for some of us, it's still today, every day, we're trying to just relive and keep that nostalgia alive. So how about today? Do you look forward to Halloween now as an adult?
My friend took me to Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, nice.
That was really fun. I was just like it brought me back, as a kid, with people running around with their axes and like
Yes.
jump scaring you, and like the haunted mazes, and houses, whatever, and stuff like that, and like just being with your friends. Like, yeah, that was as an adult, that's probably the most awesome thing. Like, it's like I thought that was really fun. Universal's, they're killing it with that. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, they
Yeah,
are doing an awesome job with those haunts.
yeah.
And so at the end now, we always have to ask, what is your favorite Halloween candy and your favorite Halloween costume that you've worn? I'm wondering, the costume might be Ghostface with that glorious smell of
Yeah.
the latex mixed with candy. I know the smell. I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I already answered that question. So it's Ghostface, probably my favorite one that I dressed as. And then your other question was, what's the
Halloween candy.
Halloween candy? Um, okay, so I'll say as a kid, it was Milky Ways.
Nice.
Okay, because I wasn't fond of nuts inside of my chocolate.
Hmm.
So Milky Ways was like the best version. I love chocolate and caramel. But now, as an older man that loves all kinds of candy, and does not discriminate anymore, I love Milky Ways, Snickers,
Yeah.
Twix. Like the mix of chocolate and caramel is dynamite. Like I just
Yes.
can't get enough of it.
I hear you. Yeah, I like all of the above too.
Yeah. And I
But
also have a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I understand as a kid not wanting the nuts to cloud up the chocolate. You want more chocolate as a
Yeah.
kid. That's just,
Yeah.
yeah, peanuts. That's too healthy for as
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have a strange relationship with candy corn. It's like where as a kid, like I would like it for I don't know how long. Like at first I'd eat because everyone like would hate it. And then like I would eat something like this isn't bad. I like it. And I would eat it. And then I'd be like, now I'm sick of this. Like it's like, pretty quickly. But then after that passes, then I'll eat some and I'll be like, yeah, this is good again. And like so I have a toxic relationship with candy corn.
I think some people can probably relate. I mean, candy corn. It is the great debate with candy corn, though. You know, there is that great debate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's other people that it got to balance, battle themselves.
Yeah. Do you like candy corn?
Yeah, I like it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. Like I know some people just can't touch it. I don't mind it. You know, I like it. But it's not like my go-to favorite by any means.
Sure, sure.
But I like it. Yeah.
Sounds like we have the same relationship with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it depends on the day, I guess, sometimes. But so just to wrap it up here and bring it back to Frankenstein one more time. I mean, obviously we've talked about, you know, the timelessness of that original story. Is there anything that you want to say that you're hoping that audiences are gonna take from this, aside from maybe going back and checking out the Mary Shelley novel?
Yeah, no, I think I'm hoping that that they go back to read the Mary Shelley book. I hope that that happens after they're like, man, let me read this book, and that they actually do it and finish it. But you know, as a movie, I just hope they're able to get a full experience. You know, like a full meal, a ride of emotions. I hope they can laugh. I hope they can, you know, feel sad. I hope they can, you know, feel scared. I hope they can feel grossed out. You know, it's like, and I hope that it makes them think, and that they leave the theater with, you know, some with moving thoughts or emotions. Like I hope they're able to get a full ride out of this. That's you know, that would be my hope.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely encourage people to check it out. I loved it. It is an awesome new take on a classic, iconic story. And I think our audience is going to love it. And I always hate saying goodbye. So since every day is Halloween, instead around here, I'm just going to tell you happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, man. Happy Halloween. Check it out in the theater June 9th.